Purchasing Negotiations Training. This training is adapted from the negotiations book by Steve Gates, The Complete Skilled Negotiator Workshop, The Gap Partnership. Today's learning agenda is Introduction and Objectives, the Clock Face Model, Preparing to Negotiate, Negotiation Tactics, and Closing Remarks. It is said that it is what we know already that often prevents us from learning. Let us talk about the clock face model. The clock face model recognizes that there are different types of negotiations that require different types of approaches. The model allows a team to assess which approach is appropriate for a given situation and how their approach may need a change in response to other parties' approach. Factors influencing position, dependency, trust required, complexity of the deal, and longevity of the relationship. Prior to every negotiation, determine where you are on the clock face. Select the appropriate negotiation behavior and approach. So you can see that the clock face has numbers from 1 to 12 and the sections comprising of bartering, haggling, hard bargaining, dealing, concession trading, win-win, and partnership. What type of negotiation am I involved in? Bartering, the definition is simple exchange of goods or services. Haggling means single issue with both parties conceding to an acceptable result. Hard bargaining means one dominant issue with both parties conceding to reach acceptable result may have other issues to use as leverage. Dealing means several terms on the table with parties compromising to reach a deal, not structured as concession trading. Concession trading means several terms on the table. Concessions are offered only with conditions attached. Win-win means trading terms that create value for both parties. Idea is to trade low cost for high value. Partnership means resolving issues by working together under framework of a long-term deal. And relationship building is defined as sharing information, resources to build value for both parties, high level of interdependency. An example of bartering is person A completes person B's tax return and in exchange for person B giving basketball tickets to person A. Example of haggling is the process of purchasing an item from a flea market. Example of hard bargaining is the process of buying a car from a dealership. Example of dealing is negotiating a cell phone, cable internet deal with a telecom provider. Example of concession trading is one party agrees to increase term by 1 year and remove a guaranteed cost-saving clause, but only if the other reduces rates by 1% and provides a signing bonus of $25,000. An example of win-win is buyer agrees to let growing IT company publicly use its logo in sales material. Seller agrees to offer seller-free consulting services for installation. Partnership example is co-manufacturer and you work jointly to resolve a product non-conformance and settle a claim. And an example of relationship building is Walmart and you deal for the sale of a branded fresh tray packed poultry. Let's do some practice session on a clock face positioning. So working in your suggested or assigned groups, complete the following tasks. Select an existing negotiation or supplier relationship from your team. Document a brief overview including terms being reviewed, longevity of the relationship, dependency between you and the supplier, trust required in the relationship or situation. Determine the position on the clock face. Document rationale for positioning and be prepared to discuss. You will have 10 minutes to complete the exercise. Each group will nominate one team member to present to the larger group, maximum 2 minutes. Preparing to negotiate. Negotiation terms brainstorm. So think creatively to develop a long list of potential variables. It is far easier for both parties to feel satisfied in a negotiation if multiple variables are brought forward as terms subject to negotiation versus just price. Some negotiation terms can be obvious, while others require insight into the business relationship and motivations of the other party to develop. For example, payment terms, use of trademarks, SLAs or penalties, conversion cost, guaranteed volume, signing bonus, co-branding, contract length, volume discount, exclusivity, termination, non-compete clause. Anchoring the negotiation by opening extreme. What is the purpose of opening extreme in a negotiation? Shifts the expectation of the other party, allows for movement in a negotiation. Parties can buy satisfaction. It tests the assumption you have made, reference the other party's breakpoint. The ability to consciously and intentionally influence the aspirations of the other party within the limitations of credibility. An example could be a car purchase. Retail list price on the website is $30,000 for base model, 5-year financing at 3.5% APR. Open with $23,599 for the sport model, 6-year financing at 1% APR. Another example is office supplies contract renegotiation. Previous terms is 2 years. Current spend is 35% less than start of the last contract. Open with 1-year term, $50,000, 5% price reduction. The negotiation range. To establish a negotiation range, determine the following for each variable: your extreme opening position, your breakpoint, the other party's breakpoint. For example, your extreme opening is $5 per kg and your breakpoint is $9 per kg. Supplier's breakpoint is $7.5 per kg. And so negotiation range is between $7.5 per kg and $9 per kg. Supplier's counteroffer is $10.5 per kg. So you can see the negotiation range as well as how it moves from $5 to $9. During a negotiation, keep the following principles in mind. You are working to move the other party to their breakpoint. Constantly reassess the other party's breakpoint during a negotiation. Move off of your opening offer in increasingly smaller increments. Understand your BATNA as well as the other party's BATNA. Different roles in negotiations. A role of a leader, who's a decision maker, sets overall meeting objectives, opens the meeting with conditioning message, steps back and lets the team manage the discussion, comes back in to close the deal. A speaker, who's a negotiator. This person does the vast majority of talking in the meeting, uses preparation materials to guide discussion, concisely delivers counteroffers, appropriately uses verbal and non-verbal cues to guide discussion. Live analytics. Tabulates the total value of the deal for both parties and relay important info to the leader. Observer, who's focused on other party, gets in the head of the other party, communicates key observations regarding other side's reaction and behavior to a leader. So on a negotiation table, you have the observer, you have numbers, you have leader, and you have a speaker. Let's do some practice session on negotiation planning exercise. Select a current real negotiation or upcoming negotiation from within your group. Summarize the situation including any pertinent financial information. Develop the negotiation strategy. Brainstorm terms. For each, align on opening offer. Your breakpoint, your supplier's breakpoint. Develop your opening position script. You will have 15 minutes to complete the exercise. Each group will nominate one team member to present to the larger group, maximum 2 minutes. Negotiation tactics. If all you have is a hammer in the toolbox, everything looks like a nail. Tactics and values. The goal in negotiation is to maximize the best possible deal given the circumstances you face. Tactics come into play when one party is perceived to have more power than the other and tries to take advantage of it. Negotiators should see tactics for what they are and when necessary use counter tactics to neutralize their effect. Tactics are neither clever nor sophisticated. They are designed to apply pressure by those who believe they have enough power to do so. There is always a corresponding erosion of relationship when tactics are applied. None of the tactics discussed are right or wrong. They should only be judged as appropriate or inappropriate to the circumstances we are faced. User tactics will vary by organization in accordance with the values of the company. As a general rule, negotiations that focus on hard bargaining lend themselves more readily to the application of tactics. Example of tactics. Information-based tactics. Hypothetical question. Asking what if or suppose that. Used to explore possibilities, especially when a deadlock looming. Full disclosure and openness. I'm going to be completely transparent, honestly, really, and actually. Be aware it is likely that the truth has not been in play. Listen for them and remain mindful of the longer term implications of full disclosure. Why? Used to challenge everything from interest, priorities, agenda, items, and proposals. During exploration discussions, it is always valuable to ask why they are asking, provides valuable insights into the other party's thinking. Examples of tactics. Time and momentum based tactics. Deadlines. We need to move this along. We will need to know on Friday. Deadlines exert pressure on the other party to act or make decisions. The other party may employ this as a trading variable. Establish an arbitrary deadline and signal its importance. Trade this deadline later for a concession of a higher value. And just one more thing. Use at the end of negotiation when the deal is all but done. So, I guess we are good here. You will of course include the X we discussed earlier. Exploits the other party's desire to not reopen negotiation once issues are closed. Timeout. When in doubt, adjourn the meeting and take time to regroup. Always pause to understand implications, risks, or financial considerations. Most often used when new information comes to light. Fear or guilt-based tactics. Good guy, bad guy. One member in the team makes high or irrational demands, and another will present themselves as far more understanding and reasonable. Uses the law of relativity to attract cooperation. Usually transparent enough and erodes potential for trust. Recognize it when you see it. The Russian front. A Second World War reference. A colonel told a lieutenant that if he did not do as told, they would be sent to the front lines. The colonel had the power. The lieutenant believed it was real. In negotiations, one provides two options with the intent of getting the other party to accept the lesser of two evils. Don't be fooled. When presented with this, both options should be rejected. Tactics example. Fear or guilt-based tactics. The social smell. Used to imply that you are the odd one out. Comes in the form of what others are. All our other customers have agreed. You will be the one missing out. Applies pressure to confirm. Highlights isolation and promotes self-doubt. Silence. Used to unnerve the other party. The first to talk is usually the first to concede. For many of the discomfort of alone can result in a concession. One will buy back their comfort. Best used directly after you have stated a proposal or they have stated theirs. Just wait. The pressure builds and leads to more concessions. Tactics. Anchoring based tactics. The power statement. I understand you really need to get an agreement on this, or opening statement used to manage the aspirations of the other party, usually stated in the form of an assumed fact, designed to get the other party to move towards you. The professional flinch. A shock reaction to their opening position. Facial reaction reinforced verbally. Used regardless of their opening position and designed to lower aspirations. Undermines confidence in their position and expectations. The broken record. One party repeats their position, enhancing its credibility. The more something is discussed, the more likely the negotiation will anchor to it. Can be interpreted as stubbornness or unwillingness to listen. Some closing thoughts. Recognize tactics being used and qualify them by challenging their consequences. Use of more than one tactic will be employed to increase pressure on you to manipulate your actions. Limit the use of tactics to the level of trust and dependency you require in the relationship once the deal is done. Risk-benefit of applying tactics yourself must be judged based on your circumstances, objectives, motivations, and values.